Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Hope you had a pleasant weekend. It is time for one of my favorite series, and hopefully one of yours as well. History by Mail. It is for April of 2025. If I remember correctly, this should be the fourth and final installment of the Native American unit. As I've said before, they do it. They do 3 units, each one taking up 4 months per year. Last month, almost said last week, but it was last month, if I recall correctly, it was the story of, I think, Buffalo Bill Cody. Yes, Buffalo Bill Cody and Sitting Bull was last month. And this month, let us dig in and see what we have. We've got our document here. It's beautiful handwriting. To the Washington Chiefs. God, that is fantastic handwriting. Oh, on the back we have the signatures, the signees of whichever document this is. But I will leave it there if people would like to pause, because that is absolutely stunning. But we see Arizona, March 27th, 28th, 1890, maybe 1894? I think that would be. Either way, that is fantastic, so we're going to set this off to the side for the moment. Here we go. Aha! I was right. Transcript of the Hopi Land Petition, March 3rd to April 10th, 1894. Okay. Moqui Villages, Arizona, March 1894. To the Washington Chiefs, during the last 2 years, strangers have looked over our lands with spyglasses and made marks upon it. And we know but little of what this means. As we believe that you have no wish to disturb our possessions, we want to tell you something about this Hopi land. None of us ever asked that it should be measured into separate lots and given to individuals, for this would cause confusion. The family, the dwelling house, and the field are inseparable, because the woman is the heart of these, and they rest with her. Among us, the family traces its kin from the mother, hence all its possessions are hers. The man builds the house, but the woman is the owner, because she repairs and preserves it. The man cultivates the field, but he renders its harvest into the woman's keeping, because upon her it rests to prepare the food, and the surplus of stores for barter depends on her thrift. Interesting. A man plants the fields of his wife, and the fields assigned to the children she bears, and informally he calls them his, although in fact they are not. Even of the field which he inherits from his mother, its harvest he may dispose of at will, but the field itself he may not. This is very curious, very matriarchal in structure. He may permit his son to occupy it and gather its produce, but at the father's death the son may... Okay, so that's end of replica. So that's where it stops there. The son may. Okay, but now we can, get the rest of it. The son may not own it, for then it passes to the father's sister's son, or nearest mother's kin, and thus our fields and houses always remain with our mother's family. According to the number of children a woman has, fields for them are assigned to her from some of the lands of her family group, and her husband takes care of them. Hence our fields are numerous but small, and several belonging to the same family may be closer together, or they may be miles apart, because arable localities are not continuous. Very true. There are some other reasons for the irregularity in size and situation of our family lands, as interrupted sequence of inheritance caused by extinction of families, but chiefly owing to the following condition, and to which we especially invite your attention. In the spring and early summer, there usually comes from the southwest a succession of gales, oftentimes strong enough to blow away the sandy soil from the face of some of our fields, and to expose the underlying clay, which is hard and sour and barren. And the sand is the only fertile land. When it moves, the planters must follow it, and other fields must be provided in place of those which have been devastated. Sometimes generations pass away, and these barren spots remain, while in other instances, after a few years, the winds have again restored the desirable same upon them. In such event, its fertility is disclosed by the nature of the grass and shrubs that grow upon it. If these are promising, a number of us unite to clear off the land and make it fit again for planting, when it may be given back to its former owner, or if a long time has elapsed, to other heirs, or it may be given to some person of the same family group more in need of a planting place. These limited changes in landholding are effected by mutual discussion and concession among the elders and among all the thinking men and women of the family groups interested. In effect, the same system of holding and the same method of planting obtain among the Tiwa, I'm not sure how that would be pronounced, and all the Hopi villages, and under them we provide ourselves with food and abundance. The American is our elder brother, and in everything he can teach us, except in the method of growing corn in these waterless sandy valleys, and in that we are sure we can teach him. We believe that you have no desire to change our system of small holdings, nor do we think that you wish to remove any of our ancient landmarks. And it seems to us that the conditions we have mentioned afford sufficient grounds for this requesting to be left undisturbed. Further, it has been told to us, as coming from Washington, that neither measuring nor individual papers are necessary for us to keep possession of our villages, our peach orchards, and our springs. And our springs. If this be so, we would like to ask what need there is to bring confusion into our accustomed system of holding cornfields. We are aware that some 10 years ago a certain area in our lands was proclaimed to be for our use, but the extent of this area is unknown to us, nor has any agent ever been able to point it out, for its boundaries have never been measured. We most earnestly desire to have one continuous boundary ring enclosing all the Tiwa and all the Hopi lands, and that it shall be large enough to afford sustenance for our increasing flocks and herds. If a scope can be confirmed to us by a paper from your hands securing us forever against intrusion, all our people will be satisfied. Okay, so this was the back. The handwritten names and totems of petitioners follow for several pages. Okay, so those are their individual family totems. Very, very fascinating. I am very much unaware of what this is, and I cannot wait to get into it and see what in the world we have. So on that, we have the Hopi Land Petition, March 3rd to April 10th, 1894. Enclosed is a petition signed by the chiefs and leaders of the Hopi tribe of the Moqui, I assume, I apologize if that's wrong, villages in the Arizona Territory. The symbol for each tribal leader serves as their family signature. The petition is addressed to the Washington chiefs and calls on the federal government to give the Hopi title to their lands, rather than assigning plots individually to tribal members. Hopi society is based on the cooperative resource management and a matriarchal power structure. Okay, that's exactly what we gathered from reading the transcript. Where was I? I'm sorry. Matriarchal power structure and the American government's actions threatened the Hopi way of life. The Hopi Nation. The Hopi are a Native American tribe largely residing in southeastern Arizona. Hopi can mean one who is mannered, civilized, polite, peaceful, or one who adheres to the Hopi way. The Hopi way involves respect for all things and living in accordance with the instructions of Masa, Masa, the creator and caretaker of Earth. Hopi society is traditionally organized into matrilineal clans. When a baby is 20 days old, the women of the father's clan gather and bring a name and a gift for the child. The parents then decide on the primary name to be used from these names. Hopi view land as sacred and view their roles as caretakers of ancestral lands. They have traditionally been an agricultural nation, settling on high mesas for protection and irrigation. Hopi did not have a concept of land being individually owned or divided. The appropriation of native land. In 1882, President Chester A. Arthur created a Hopi reservation through an executive order. Though the Hopi reservation protected the Hopi villages from white settlers, it did not protect against encroachment from Navajos, who were largely nomadic. In 1887, the U.S. Congress enacted the General Allotment Act, or Dawes Allotment Act, named after Massachusetts Senator Henry Dawes. The act authorized the president to subdivide Native American communal land into individual allotments with male ownership. Remaining surplus lands would be left for the Hopi tribe's communal needs and available for purchase even to non-natives. The push to allocate Native American land came from the land rush of 1889, which was stimulated by overpopulation on the East Coast and the economic and population boom after the Civil War. Tribal land was also sought after by the railroad, mining, and forest industries. Even though the Indian Territory was promised to Native Americans in perpetuity by the federal government, the Dawes Act violated this promise. The act was applied on a tribe-by-tribe basis after 1887. Supporters of the act thought it would settle tribal land disputes and secure native ownership of land. However, the effect of the act was to force a new system of private property onto Native Americans and ultimately interfere with tribal ways of life. One major intention behind the act was to compel Native Americans to adapt to mainstream American life. Over the subsequent 4 decades, the Dawes Act brought about a loss of tribal control and traditional leadership of about 2/3 of all Native American land in the U.S. Tribal members could either select their parcel of land or be assigned by the agency superintendent. Unassigned land was deemed surplus and sold by the federal government to non-Native American settlers. Over 60 million acres of surplus lands were given away or sold. Often what was deemed surplus land was the most productive and fertile. Additionally, some Native Americans sold their individual allotments to European and American settlers to support themselves, although they required federal approval for their sales until the early 1900s. Despite government plans, many natives who received land plots did not become farmers, likely because they did not receive any farming equipment or education, and some of their plots were not suitable for agriculture. In addition to disrupting the matrilineal way of life, allocating land to each adult male took control away from the tribe. Windstorms that blew away topsoil and left certain areas of the terrain unfarmable. Families had to shift their labor around and farm non-contiguous areas in the sands of various valleys. With the government allocation of land, some families would receive better plots than others. In the early decades of the 20th century, a series of acts were passed to make it easier for native land to be sold or confiscated. Then in 1934, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Wheeler-Howard Act. The legislation, also known as the Indian Reorganization Act, put an end to the process of allotting Native American land in the continental U.S. and gave control over tribal land, natural resources, and government back to Native Americans. The Hopi Petition. So that is what we had in here. The enclosed petition was handwritten by Thomas Varker Keem. Having originally come to Arizona as an American soldier to relocate Navajo people to New Mexico, Keem instead established a trading post licensed by the Indian Bureau. He learned both the Hopi and Navajo languages and worked to maintain peace among the tribes, European American settlers, and the U.S. government. Keem was the first white trader to develop American Indian arts as part of his business. He amassed a large collection of prehistoric artifacts, which he sold to curators and anthropologists. Part of his collection are now housed in various museums around the U.S. and Europe, including the Smithsonian Institution, the Field Museum, and the Peabody Museum. Keem served as an advocate for the political and cultural independence of the natives, especially when it came to various government civilizing programs. Keem's petition came in the wake of the Dawes Commission, a delegation that registered members of tribes for land allotment. The commission often attributed full-blood status to natives who were seen as poorly assimilated and of mixed blood statuses to those who most resembled whites, regardless of how the people culturally identified. It was common, however, for people to be members of more than one tribe based on their ancestral lines. Even though free former slaves of Native Americans were supposed to be given full tribal membership as per federal treaties with the tribes that followed the Civil War, they were not registered on the Dawes rolls and did not receive tribal land allocation. This is really, really interesting. The petitioners requested to know why the Hopis should not be allowed to continue their way of life. In a reference to Dawes Commission land surveyors, the enclosed petition states, "None of us were asked that it should be measured into separate lots and given to individuals, for this would cause confusion." The U.S. government never officially responded to the enclosed petition, yet the request was effectively answered as the Hopi land was never allotted, perhaps due to the Hopis' noncompliance. In 1898, the Curtis Act extended the Dawes Act to the 5 civilized tribes that had originally been excluded: Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, and Seminole. The act also abolished tribal governments, courts, and communal lands. Vast amounts of Native American land was removed from Native ownership through the allotment process, including land which was home to sacred sites. Land title disputes continue today, and much of Native land is owned in a checkerboard fashion rather than in large continuous tracts. This is the 4th and final document of the Native American series. There's a link right down there if you want to learn more about it. And I mean, what do you, and that's the whole problem with quote unquote progress, as it were. Progress, expansion, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, advancement. It all comes at a very, very horrifying cost to some group, and that's, all right, there, you stand up, and that's sadly the way of it. It's not pretty, it's not good, but it is a part of our history that we really need to, it's there for us to take a look at so we can learn. So in theory, hopefully things like this do not happen in the future, but we all know sadly how humanity can be, and it is unfortunately not good. That said, that was very, very interesting and eye-opening history by mail, and that closes out the Native American unit. A part of American history I do wish to learn more about, that and the Old West. I'm just woefully, because they really didn't teach it to us in school. Maybe there was a reason they didn't teach it to us in school, and things like this are kind of providing a little evidence to back up that theory that I have. But that said, this has been some History by Mail. Next month, we begin a new unit. Not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be fascinating, as they all have been. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below, and we will see you next time.